With Hillary Clinton's campaign being fined for misuse of funds and the ongoing Biden farrago not being properly reported by the legacy media, we ask you, are the mainstream media in alliance with certain political interests? Hello there, you 5.4 or 5 million awakening wonders. The woodshed is there. You can get your own log if you want. I'll send you one if you really fancy one. And look at the plant flourishing back to its full mighty health. And look at my t-shirt. Any funds we do raise going to good causes. What a fantastic channel we're creating, and it's all because of you. It's all because we see you as awake and able to make your own assessments, your own decisions, form your own opinions, take on opposing views and formulate truth in that crucible of apparently contradictory facts. And here we've got some great stories for you. Come see me live, by the way. There's a link in the description. Sign up to my mailing list. I put a link up at the end. Subscribe if you don't subscribe already. But most importantly, pay attention now, because we're going to tell you about a fascinating story where a young student at this conference, where poor old Brian Stelter got his ass handed to him, and now Applebaum from The Atlantic has been confronted by another one of these naughty students about the reporting at The Atlantic.
Thank you for doing this. Really appreciate it. I'm Daniel Schmidt. I'm a freshman at the University of Chicago. My question is for Ms. Applebaum. So in 2020, you wrote, "Those who live outside the Fox News bubble do not, of course, need to learn any of the stuff about Hunter Biden," referring to his laptop, of course.
Oh, we're all so bored of Hunter Biden's laptop. Oh, boring old laptops. Oh, boring.
A poll later after that found that if voters knew about the content of the laptop, 16% of Joe Biden voters would have acted differently. Now, of course, we know a few weeks ago, the New York Times confirmed that the content is real. Do you think the media acted inappropriately when they instantly dismissed Hunter Biden's laptop as Russian disinformation? And what can we learn from that in ensuring that what we label as disinformation is truly disinformation and not reality?
So what a great question from this young person. He's confronting the journalist with how the narrative unfolded. Initially, it was assumed that the Hunter Biden laptop was irrelevant, although I know a lot of you believed it from the get-go, probably because of your own biases. Be honest, we've got to investigate ourselves while we're investigating others. Hit me up in the comments below. And now it's been proven to be true, and the New York Times has sanctified it, and it would have made an impact on that election. So that's interesting, isn't it?
My problem with Hunter Biden's laptop is I think it's totally irrelevant.
Oh, there's some more irrelevant news. What's the irrelevant news today? The irrelevant news is that potentially Hunter Biden and Joe Biden have economic relationships in Ukraine and China with energy firms. Oh, how boring. What, a potential president and his son, just involved in energy companies in Ukraine. Who cares about Ukraine? I've never even heard of Ukraine. And China, what are those guys doing? They don't have any power or influence over there in China, do they?
I mean, it's not whether it's disinformation or, I don't think the Hunter Biden's business relationships have anything to do with who should be president of the United States. So I don't find it to be interesting.
I would say it is interesting. Not the salacious stuff. As we've always said when we talked about this, if someone has issues with addiction or has a private life that strays from territories that might be regarded as normal, I don't think that's anybody else's business. But when it comes to financial corruption, I think it's important, and I'll tell you who else thought it was important, the mainstream media, because they didn't report on it on the eve of an election because they were invested in a particular outcome, it might seem. Take another story. We all remember the immersive experience of like Trump-Russia collaboration. Oh, there's Russian spying, there's Russian support. Let me just read you a little bit of this. The Federal Election Commission earlier this month fined Hillary Clinton's 2016 presidential campaign and the Democratic National Committee for failing to properly report funding on opposition research into the 2017 Steele dossier, which examined former President Donald Trump's alleged links to Russia. Now, I think that story has been largely disparaged. Comparable, but sort of reversed to the stuff that's gone on with Hunter Biden's laptop. It makes you realise how media works. If you're deluged and hit with enough information enough times, you ultimately kind of believe it, and it's too late now and it's confusing. Notice how many stories you can apply that to. Potentially around the pandemic, certainly around the Hunter Biden laptop, potentially around the whole Russiagate stuff. All of these things are making me realise you have to take on media information with a great deal of discernment. In a letter sent by the FEC to both parties on Tuesday, the agency said the Clinton campaign and the DNC improperly reported the money they spent funding the dossier. They weren't meant to be spending that money funding a dossier, labelling the spending as legal services and legal and compliance consulting instead of opposition research. Now that's important. That relates to trust. What they were actually trying to do was generate a smear campaign, which as of today is unsubstantiated. So It shows you that you need to apply a good deal of discernment, and frankly, it's down to Chicago University and its students to unravel this whole damn conspiracy. Political candidates and groups are legally required to publicly disclose their spending to the FEC, which is responsible for enforcing campaign finance law in the US, and explain the purpose of any cost that exceeds $200. The FEC fined the Clinton campaign $8,000 and the DNC $105,000 for the misconduct, the letter said. Clinton's campaign is still technically in operation. We could still win it! We could still win it! With more than $181,000 of cash on hand, according to January 22nd filing, more than enough to pay the FEC fine. The infamous dossier in question was prepared by former UK intelligence officer Christopher Steele and included a trove of prurient but unverified claims regarding the alleged relationship between Trump and members of the Russian intelligence community, as well as assertions that his campaign colluded with the Kremlin in the 2016 election. Much of the information within the document has since been refuted. It's difficult not to conclude that the Clinton campaign were involved in malfeasance and nefarious activity because they didn't even admit that they were spending the money on what they said they were. They lied. It says here that the Clinton campaign and the DNC paid more than $1 million to the law firm Perkins Coie, which hired Fusion GPS to conduct opposition research. Why don't you just put, oh yeah, we spent $1 million on trying to find out whether Trump is colluding with the Russians? Why is that not there? It's further evidence to suggest that the whole thing was a confection. I'm not saying that it was. I'm saying that all this evidence could suggest that. Could it? Hit me up in the comments below if you think that, given that it's simply an inquiry and a question, much like the students of Chicago University are asking of another respected journalist about why the Biden laptop was embargoed. You couldn't report on it. You couldn't. Why? Because it might make people vote differently. And a subsequent poll, as the lad said, suggests that people would have voted differently. Well, that means that the outcome of an entire general election was at stake, and information was suppressed that later proved to be true. I mean, what does that tell you? What does that imply about American democracy and who the media supports and what the media wants? And whichever team you're on, you have to acknowledge that that does not look good. But here's some more news reporting on Hunter and James Biden's business dealings. Oh, it's so boring. Oh, I've fallen asleep talking about it.
And we want to turn now to a CBS News investigation by Catherine Herridge, who spoke with a top Republican senator who for years has been investigating the business dealings of the president's brother and son.
Now, it's a Republican senator, and if you don't know this already, I'm no fan of the Republican Party. So I'm not like, oh, goody, the Democrats are going to look bad. I don't like either of them or any of them. I don't think they're all bad human beings. They're all children of the light and children of God, if you ask me. But these systems are so entrenchantly corrupt that I'm not going to waste any more of my life going, I like that bit of the system. Oh, that bit of the system's horrible. Oh, that bit's boring. The whole thing stinks.
CBS News has learned that more than 150 transactions involving either Hunter or James Biden's global business affairs were flagged as concerning by U.S. banks for further review. Some of those concerns included large wire transfers.
Boring, concerning business affairs. Oh, I fell asleep.
James Biden has worked as an entrepreneur and recently in the healthcare industry.
Healthcare industry? Well, it's been a quiet time for the old healthcare industry last couple of years. What are you concerned about?
This week, Grassley released bank records indicating James Biden's company, the Lion Hall Group, was paid directly by a Chinese-financed consulting firm.
These are bank records. I've got a conspiracy theory. Maybe when that Chinese energy firm gave some money, gave some money to James Biden, maybe they wanted something in return. You maniac.
In our interview, Grassley did not allege the Bidens broke the law, but he said it's concerning that both Hunter and James Biden were promised retainers for their China work totaling $165,000 a month in 2017.
That is a good retainer, man. I'd like that. Check. I'll go and work for the Chinese government. Right, hello, welcome to the channel. Everything's going pretty well in the world. Shut up, watch the mainstream media, vote for either the Democrats or Republicans. You probably get someone good either way. Where's my fucking money?
This 2019 subpoena, verified by CBS News, shows federal investigators also sought Hunter and James Biden's business records from a major U.S. bank dating back to 2014.
Why weren't you telling us then? Why weren't you reporting it then? Got some boring news. The vice president's son and brother are all involved with these Chinese energy firms. China? I've heard of them somewhere.
As part of a separate probe by the U.S. Attorney in Delaware into possible violations of tax and foreign lobbying laws.
Oh, Oh, it's violations of tax and lobbying law. It's so boring. I'm so bored of all this corruption. Yeah, I'm bored of the corruption as well. That's why I'd like it to end. That's why I'd like systems that are representative of ordinary people and our will, running our own communities, being able to have some impact through, here's the word, democracy. Democracy. Have you heard of it?
I think Hunter and James Biden should not have entered into those relationships. In the best case, those things look really bad. In the worst case, the conflicts can be quite serious.
The best case scenario is that it looks bad. The worst case scenario is that it's really serious. All the way between those two poles, I believe, is a little thing called the news. It should all be covered.
The White House Chief of Staff said this week that the president is confident his family did the right thing, adding these actions by Hunter and James are private matters and don't involve the president.
Imagine like your own family. I mean, if someone's like got a good job at a restaurant, you know, oh, we'll go to that restaurant, we'll get a good seat. If they're the president of the United States and you're getting a retainer of 65 grand or 100 grand a month, now that we've done this deal, guess who my dad is? Go on, who is it? It's actually the president. Bloody hell, can you get us a selfie with him? It's part of it.
I don't find it to be interesting. I mean, that would be my problem with that as a major news story.
We're going to talk about more of this tomorrow in our first panel, so stand by. And I think we have run out of time.
So there you have it. A freshman at a university is asking more pertinent, germane and important questions than the entire corporate and legacy media. And when he does so, well, I don't have time for that. There's a panel on little bastards tomorrow. This meeting's over. That's how the establishment operates. You can see the whole thing in microcosm. The young inquiring mind asks questions and the establishment shuts it down and tries to flatten it out with faff, bullshit and pap. I would say that these relationships within the Biden family and their corporate connotations, or these relationships within the Clinton campaign and their potential propagandist connotations are significant matters. And if you don't have a media that's willing to report on that, you don't have a media at all. What you have is a system of propaganda. You have a system that meets certain agenda. But that's just what I think. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below if these issues concern you. Let me know if you are able to pick away your own biases and prejudices and alliances to a particular party and recognise that it's the system itself that needs to change. Unless we have real democracy, we have nothing at all. That's just what I think, though. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Have a look at these two videos. They're both pretty good, actually. I like that one. I like that one a lot. Sign up to my mailing list because I need to be able to communicate with you all the time. I want direct contact with you. Come see me live if you want. There's tickets in Blackpool. I can't believe I'm saying that to you in America. But more important than coming to see me in Blackpool is that you please stay free.